Of this extravaganza, 800-941-SEAN is our number. I'm excited because we have Herschel Walker and Joe Theismann. They're both friends of mine on the program later today, and everybody's freaking out. I mean, the response and reaction to Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck's decision to retire from the NFL is, I mean, it's out of control. You would think that this guy owes his entire life to people, and he's got to make his own decisions in life. And I get why people, that's why they're fans, fanatics, fans. Everyone has a fan. I don't blame Indianapolis fans for being disappointed, but I mean, the boos that he got were, wow, out of control. And he made it after a series of injuries, setbacks in his career. He's a great quarterback. And I know that this whole issue of CTE is real. There's no doubt about it. I know the NFL's, finally now come to grips with it. They've made some rule changes. They were slow, but they did. They're trying to make helmets safer. That's fine. The one thing I don't want to have happen, though, is nobody that plays football, ice hockey, or gets in the octagon or is a boxer that doesn't know that there is a real risk of injury. These are the warrior sports. These are, modern day gladiators in a sense. And this is a life they choose. And the fact that it is risky, the fact that they are putting everything on the line, including in many ways their own safety, is, part of the attraction to those sports because you admire something called bravery. And just because somebody decides, all right, I decide not to do this anymore, you shouldn't. Everyone's got to make their own choices in life. It's not that's a personal thing. He's got a family. He's going to make his own choices. Fine. I respect that. And frankly, I don't think it's any of our business. I understand disappointment. I didn't understand the booing. There's a lot of people. The average career in the NFL is not Tom Brady's 20-year career. It's not. He's the anomaly. And, I mean, Tom Brady's a health nut. I mean, he takes everything to the max. But a lot of athletes do. I watch these extreme sports shows every once in a while. You guys ever watch any of this stuff? I love MMA, as everybody knows. I've trained mixed martial arts, a sort of eclectic blend of Krav Maga, Kempo, Jiu-Jitsu, and boxing, and really situational, hard, brutal street fighting. I mean, that too, you get in an octagon, that is a blood sport. And I remember when I trained the one day with Chuck Liddell years ago, I mean, this guy had, I don't know how many times he got knocked out. It was painful to watch him go back in the ring. I didn't want him to go back in the ring or the octagon. I didn't want him to go back. As a matter of fact, they weren't going to let him go back for the right reasons. And he got knocked out pretty quickly, not because of he's older and his talent level. That has nothing to do with it. There's only so many times you can get knocked out. Ronda Rousey, after she first got knocked out, she was a warrior in the octagon. I have nothing but admiration for Ronda Rousey. But after the first knockout, the professionals I have interviewed and talked to, it changes people dramatically. And so these concussions are real. CTE is real. You definitely want to try and make it safer, but you can't take the sport and water it down to something it was never meant to be, which is a totally, completely, utterly safe sport. That's never going to happen, nor do people want that. It's a gladiator. It is it is a warrior sport. And people train hard to be warriors. I admire them for it. Some people, Hannity likes boxing. And yeah, I do like boxing and mixed martial arts. Yeah, I watch it all the time. And I like it so much that I now train in it every single day, 4 or 5 days a week. And one of the best decisions I've ever made because I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And do I ever want to use it on anybody? No. If I ever have to, would I? Yeah, in a second, in a heartbeat. It just, it's a dangerous world out there. One of the things you worry about the most as a parent is what happens. There's so many crazy people. Look at it, what we cover every day. Look at the news that we cover every single day. You know, you can get everything from war, brutality, man's inhumanity to man. You know, why have I been so outspoken about the practice of Sharia in some countries? Why? Because it abuses women and treats them like fourth-class citizens and tells them how to dress, where they can go, when they can go, who they can go with. You know, whether they can even drive a car, or they can be victims of marital rape, and there's no charges brought against the people responsible for that brutal violence. Or, you know, killing people that are gay and lesbian, throwing them off roofs in Iran and other countries. I'm like, or stoning people to death. Man, remember the movie that we covered, the stoning of, what was that movie called? Sorry, yeah, why don't you say it on the air? You don't have to say it in my ear.
The Stoning of Soraya M. by Cyrus Narasta.
Yeah, I mean, that crap happens. You know, or the idea you persecute Christians and Jews in some countries. We're a country that believes in freedom of religion. The only religion we're never going to tolerate is a religion that you say guides and dictates you to convert everybody or kill them. We're not going to buy into that one. But as far as you want to be an atheist, be an atheist. You want to be an agnostic, be an agnostic. Christian, Jewish, Islam, nobody cares what religion you are. We believe in that freedom. As long as you don't impact other people, which is what it comes down to. We have a lot going on today, especially as it relates to 2020. We're now on the brink of getting a decision as it relates to Andrew McCabe, which is pretty interesting because Andrew McCabe, just hired by fake news CNN, which is an entire different story in and of itself. Remember, the guy was fired for lying and leaking. Andrew McCabe. And so now we'll find out, federal prosecutors now nearing that decision on whether or not McCabe is going to be indicted over his egregious lying. And so we'll watch and wait and see what happens with all of that. But the other thing we now know that and can confirm, as we've been telling you the last couple of days, the DOJ Inspector General report is complete as it relates to FISA abuse, and it is now being processed for potential redactions. Senator Lindsey Graham expects the findings to be, quote, damning and ugly, and he's going to give the Inspector General as much time as he needs to explain every single detail of what went down and what happened. I did notice that McCabe is given interviews, and in one of the interviews, he's actually trying to backtrack from his own past statement. Remember, it was Deputy FBI Director McCabe that said, well, if there's no Clinton bought and paid for dossier, there's no FISA application. He said those words. And then he goes on this interview, apparently on C-SPAN, and now he's saying, well, we informed the FISA court about the origins of the Steele dossier. Here. Are we going to see equal application of American laws, equal justice under the law? are we going to see what emerges to be a two-tiered justice system? Because if they, meaning Comey and the special counsel and McCabe, McCabe himself told General Flynn, a 33-year vet, no, you don't need a lawyer. Well, it was an interrogation. And they had already, unmasked him. They had they had chapter and verse of everything that was said in a phone call. Of course, General Flynn didn't know that. And then Comey, his boss, McCabe's boss, bragging that I wouldn't do this in the Bush or Obama years. But, yeah, we took advantage of the chaos. I sent my guys right into General Flynn's office after my deputy said he doesn't need a lawyer. And even after all of that, they didn't think that General Flynn was lying, which raises questions. Well, why would he admit that he was lying? Anyway, back to my original point, which is, are we going to have equal justice under the law? Because, well, that's what they're going after General Flynn for. That's what they hit Papadopoulos on. Although I'm dying to get those transcripts that have the exculpatory information, I'm told, when we get them. Then the same thing was done to Michael Cohen, and the same thing was done to Paul Manafort. Now, that happens. Free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee. You pick the wrong color, okay, they'll make it for free. No worries. Let not your heart be troubled. All right, but now through September the 3rd, huge Labor Day savings, up to 50% off everything, and you'll save an extra $20 just by mentioning my name, Hannity. Blinds.com, promo code Hannity.
Hannity Watch. Keeping an eye on Chuck and Nancy and their minions. Sean Hannity.
Get the most superior lubricants on the market today. Visit RoyalOilUS.com.
All right, so a lot of you want me to be able to say this is going to happen. This is what we know. Everything we've told you about Hillary Clinton's investigation being rigged is true. Everything about her obstruction is true. Every law we identified as it relates to the Espionage Act, every instance of top secret classified information on that server in a mom and pop bathroom closet was a violation of the Espionage Act and other sub-statutes that consist therein. And then the obstruction is the biggest slam dunk case I've ever seen. You don't delete subpoenaed emails. Apparently we have most of them, which is, wow, we ever going to go back and look at them? I'd like to see them all. She said they were about, let's see, a wedding, a funeral, and yoga lessons. Why do I suspect that's not true? We also know that there was hacking in real time to that server by the Chinese. Great information. Did Peter Strzok care? Nope. We also know that the dirty dossier, that everybody was warned that it was unverified and they never corroborated anything and they used it anyway. And without the dossier, which was the bulk of the application that they said to the judges, the FISA court judges, was verified, was not. And we know it's unverifiable. And we know that they spied on the president in multiple ways, a multitude of ways. And we also believe not only were they using foreign spies, but they were outsourcing spying on Americans and a president by friendly countries and their intelligence services to circumvent American law. Now, those would all put us in jail. The big question now will be when it all comes out, as Solomon and everybody's now saying it's now done, the Inspector General report, the Durham report is being made. Will we have equal justice? How many?
I have two.
Two. Okay. Which, by the way, you should be proud of. You worked hard to get those. That's not easy.
They were very expensive, so they're more
very
painful
expensive.
than proud.
And then you're stuck working for me. I mean, that is such a letdown.
Well, that's my penance, you know.
Penance? No, I would say you're doing pretty well. I would say you're doing very well.
Oh, good
Oh,
Lord.
God. Oh, here we go. We've talked a lot about the media, talked a lot about 2020. The biggest donors will be. We've got to look at closely, and I know they are in Congress, if these big tech companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Twitters, if they are in any way in one direction, how do you not view that? In other words, if they decide which stories they choose based on politics that they want to make more prominent, it's incalculable what the donation or the amount of money that is given as a campaign contribution. You can't do it. Now, do I want these places censored? No, I don't. I just think people need to be aware of this. There's a lot of dirty tricks going on in a lot of corners in this country. It's unbelievable how people are. It has gotten so bad in terms of the mob, the media mob, and there's a social media mob mentality also, I believe, at some of these companies. James O'Keefe, one of his latest undercover operations, broke that wide open. But if you have the New York Times admitting that they put all of their newsroom on one story, which was the Russia hoax, conspiracy theories, the lies that they spread, the misinformation, the propaganda, the breathless, hysterical coverage every second of every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month, year. I mean, it just goes on. It's kind of ironic to see Humpty Dumpty over there at fake news CNN. His show is called Unreliable Liberal Sources. And he actually has a guest on this weekend that says that Donald Trump is responsible for more deaths, not even as many. And by the way, when we're talking about 100 million rough estimate, Linda, look up what the estimated amount of deaths are for Stalin, Hitler, and Mao all told. But he has a guest, a Duke professor, saying that President Trump is responsible for more deaths than Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. Listen.
Well, I think that medicalizing politics has three very dire consequences. The first is that it stigmatizes the mentally ill. I've known thousands of patients. Almost all of them have been well-behaved, well-mannered, good people. Trump is none of these. Lumping the mentally ill with Trump is a terrible insult to the mentally ill, and they have enough problems and stigma as it is. The second issue is that calling Trump crazy hides the fact that we're crazy for having elected him, and even crazier for allowing his crazy policies to persist. Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
President Trump is responsible for more deaths than Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. Many more millions of deaths, may be responsible for many more millions than them combined. What'd you pull up, Linda? Because you're pretty quick at this stuff.
Yeah, so it looks like Mao has between 20 to 45 million. They're not sure the exact amount.
Stalin about 30.
Stalin is a mix. It's actually not as high as 30. It's more around 10 because it looks like some were by famine, some were by direct assassination, some were by work camps. So it's about 8 to 10 million, but there could be more or less. And then Hitler's about the same. It's about 6 million, but then the famine again could be up to 10 million.
No. We're not adding in World War II and all the deaths associated with that war.
Agreed.
And we're not adding in with Stalin. Stalin's number is higher. And I remember from Deliver Us from Evil. All right, whatever. Let's say 100 million, less, more, millions,
yeah, that's a fair
tens
number.
and tens and tens of millions of people. But Donald Trump may be responsible for millions more deaths. Now, what do you think fake news CNN had to say about this? Nothing. And, I have an IFB, I didn't hear the professor. Now, the irony in all of this is the professors also say, if we're going to talk about the mental illness of Trump, then we got to talk about the mental illness of the people that voted for Trump. So it always comes down to, they not only hate Trump, there is a hatred of anybody that supports Donald Trump. Now, to take it to another level of irony here, this is their psychosis. This is their mental condition of the media. And when I say mob, I say a mob on purpose. It's a mob mentality. It is lacking any rationality at this point. Psychosis, look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to play one on radio or TV. But when it becomes every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day and on from there, what did Nicole Wallace, he has a plan to exterminate Latinos. She's still working at, Roswell, Rachel Maddow's conspiracy theory channel over there at MS, right? And she's still got a job. And you got Stelter, my IFB wasn't working. This is what they have convinced themselves. They worked themselves up into a frenzy and believing the big lie that they were going to remove Donald Trump because he colluded with Russia. And we're going to end up, because of his collusion, we'll impeach. And in the, in the slower news cycles associated with all of this, it was stormy. And then it was, S-hole. And then it was racist. This is their problem. I know we're just a bunch of smelly Walmart shoppers. This is what is thought of by these elites in New York, D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles. This is their mindset. And it is a contempt for we smelly Walmart, irredeemable deplorables, bitter Americans clinging to our God, our Bibles, our Second Amendment rights, our guns, and our religion. Well, I guess if that's what you want to think of us. But this is now going to be the biggest donation to whoever the 2020 candidate eventually ends up being. Now, one of the things that Donald Trump has done so effectively is he is now tattooed in the forehead and in the front pages of the New York Times, Washington Post, fake news, CNN, their brand is not whatever they call their brand. It's not. They will forever. I thought the Clinton News Network would stick for a long time. No, fake news, CNN sticking. Fake news, NBC, CBS, ABC, New York Times, Washington Post. It's sticking. The American people's opinion of media now is at the lowest point it's ever been at. They care about Donald Trump's polls so much, still say that he will never poll as any conventional or establishment candidate. I don't think you're ever going to get an accurate read on what Donald Trump's support is. You know, I look for outlying factors. I look for, I found the Zogby poll interesting. And I think he's picked up on something that is true, that all of this is backfiring, and the success that Donald Trump has had, especially with the employment situation, best employment conditions in 1969 and low unemployment for demographic groups like African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment. This is having an impact. People are beginning to realize, wait a minute here. Okay, well, number one, they're adjusting to his iconoclastic, disruptive style. Americans accept that and the problem is we're now at a point where we see that Andy McCabe is trying to go on offense and protect himself in all of this. But we know it was Comey signed off on the very first FISA application. That was prior to the election. This was in October 2016. He signed 2 subsequent FISA applications. In January of 2017, he goes to Trump Tower, says, well, there's this dossier. It's salacious, but it's unverified. The very one that he claimed was verified months earlier when he signed the FISA application. He swore that the evidence in that application was true, accurate, verified. In reality, none of the above. And it relied on heavily. The bulk of the information in the application was the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for dirty Russian dossier. None of it true. We find if the FBI even determined over 90% when they finally got around to vetting it, well after the FISA applications, 90+% not true. They couldn't confirm any of it. And Comey was warned about all of this from the get-go. But, of course, they did it anyway to get a backdoor into the Trump campaign. And that would be premeditated fraud on a FISA court in order to spy on a presidential campaign. So that's the issue. And we got McCabe now hired by fake news CNN. He's now backtracking on his earlier remarks about, no dossier without we wouldn't get a FISA warrant approved. And Comey's right-hand man, but, well, we are waiting to see. Federal prosecutors are reportedly nearing a decision on whether or not to indict McCabe over his egregious lying. And it appears Lisa Page may be witness 1, 2, and 3 in this case, which makes it even more interesting. Now, okay, so who are we going to apply the same standards that were applied to Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, McCabe? So you don't need a lawyer. He knew that this was an interrogation into General Flynn, but he basically took away his Miranda rights by doing what he did in that case. And then Comey bragging that he sent in his agents on day 4 of the Trump administration to see Lieutenant General Flynn. And they didn't even think he was lying, but putting that aside, something he wouldn't do in the Obama-Bush administrations. All right, here to break it wide open, Fox News legal analyst, author of a soon-to-be-released sequel to his #1 bestseller. It's called Witch Hunt. Greg Jarret, David Schoen, criminal and civil liberties attorney, criminal defense attorney. All right, Greg, so I don't know why this, if there's a lack of candor, he's fired for lying and leaking. Well, if all these other people got charged for lying, why not him? Why not Comey, considering the inspector general did, in fact, recommend, or he referred Jim Comey for the same thing, lack of candor, that's lying. That would be the very offenses these other guys got put away for.
Well, you're right. And the Inspector General, by the way, is a neutral investigator. Look, Andrew McCabe has put people behind bars for lying. He should be held to the same legal standard. And if you reread, as I did this morning, the scathing condemnation of McCabe in the Inspector General report, he concluded that he, quote unquote, lacked candor, not once, not twice, but 4 times when questioned repeatedly by federal agents. Now, lack of candor is a polite way of saying he lied. In his defense, McCabe said, I was sort of stricken with onset incoherence and amnesia. It's all a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. And in the alternative, I have this innocent failure of recollection. Not likely. It should be troubling to all Americans that somebody like Andrew McCabe rose to the top of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And remember, Sean, it was just this last February, a month before the Mueller report, that McCabe appeared on CNN and has asked the following question: do you still believe the president could be a Russian asset? McCabe's answer was, quote, I think it's possible. This is a person who should never have been employed by the FBI, much less become acting director.
Your thoughts, David Schoen.
Yeah, a couple points. One of the main reasons I'm a big fan of yours is because you deal with facts. You deal with facts that you can support. So all of this nonsense about this being politically motivated, going after McCabe, Donald Trump is behind it. Let me tell you what Donald Trump is behind, I believe. He's behind having a legitimate, functioning FBI that returns to the long reputation it deserves. It's one of the premier law enforcement agencies in the world. Greg said it 4 times. The Inspector General. It's not Donald Trump's Inspector General. It was President Obama's Inspector General, frankly, who continued on because he's a man of integrity. 4 times, 3 times under oath, and 1 time he found McCabe to have lied to Comey. So Comey should also be a witness in any prosecution of McCabe. They've been at odds with their stories all along. Even the New York Times called the Inspector General's report scathing and unsparing when it dealt with Andrew McCabe. So that's what people ought to know. The facts, as the Inspector General found them, not as Donald Trump claims them to be. It's a matter of what the Inspector General found, and Donald Trump is simply supporting the integrity of the agency by insisting, as you say, on no double standards. Is this a fireable offense, lying to investigators? Absolutely. Is it criminal? Ask General Flynn's prosecutors.
Well, ask Manafort or ask Cohn or ask Papadopoulos, because in each one of those cases, that's what they made it stick. It's really sad to me, Greg, Jarret, and I've said this before, and I have friends of mine, many friends in the FBI, and I've discussed this with them. I said, I'm a guy that grew up around law enforcement. My whole family pretty much was in law enforcement in terms of extended family. My mom worked 16-hour shifts pretty much every day in a prison for 25 years. My dad, family court probation. I had 2 family members that were FBI guys, many New York City Police Department guys and Nassau County Police Department guys. But so I love law enforcement. So the FBI comes over to Sean Hannity's house, and they want to ask Sean Hannity a question. Every one of them tells me, no, don't answer any questions. And I'm like, well, that makes no sense to me. Why not? And the answer is now obvious, should be obvious to everybody. Because if they interpret what you're saying to be a lie, or maybe you innocently don't remember something exactly as it was, which for me would be like, yeah, the odds are really high, unless you're asking me something about the deep state, the investigation into the investigators, about Trump, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, Bush 1. I can answer all those questions, but I'm not going to answer who was on my show last week and remember accurately.
Yeah, you're right, because the FBI now, sadly, under James Comey and Andrew McCabe and the influence of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, have become a political organ. And so it doesn't matter what you say, they will contort it into an alleged lie and prosecute you for it. And you named all the people: Flynn, Papadopoulos, Stone, Manafort.
Stone, too. I forgot Roger Stone. Yeah. So what they're saying to good people like me that are inclined to want to help law enforcement is don't help them.
Right.
They're saying keep your mouth shut for your own safety. And that to me that is so repugnant to me, because it goes against everything that I believe in as an American citizen that wants to help my FBI out. All right, stay right there. We'll take a break. More Greg Jarrett, David Schoen. All right, summer's almost over. Maybe you need to take care of business. Look, if you don't have a will or you don't have a living trust, you got to get it done. Because if you don't get it done, and God forbid something happens, we want you to live a long, happy, prosperous life, but things happen, and you pass away, and you don't have these things, well, then the government makes the choice for you. That's not a good thing. Ask any David and Greg will have shaken their heads. They agree. It's National Make a Will Month at LegalZoom.com. They've helped millions of people in all sorts of things, especially in this area. They're going to literally, you will take the time, control your family, your assets. Whether you need a will or a living trust, maybe you're not sure which is right for you. They have a vast network at LegalZoom.com of independent attorneys who advise you on what is best for you and your family, your specific situation. And by the way, it's one flat fee. LegalZoom's not a law firm. You don't get billable hours that are really high with some lawyers. And you just pay your flat fee and you get it done and you're taking care of your family. It's that simple. All right, National Make a Will Month right now. Get an estate plan done and just go to LegalZoom.com. And when you get there, enter the promo code Hannity in the referral box when you check out. That's LegalZoom.com, promo code Hannity. And probably Greg and David are saying, gee, thanks a lot, Hannity. You're putting us out of business. Well, you know, there's plenty of business for everybody. We'll continue.
Bringing jobs back to America and getting America back to work. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
From farm equipment to power sports, your one-stop shop for lubrication is Royal Oil. Visit RoyalOilUS.com.
All right, wrapping things up, Greg Jarrett, David Schoen. All right, so the Horowitz report done. It's now in the process of being looked at for potential redactions. Lindsey Graham saying it's going to be devastating. We have one referral for Comey still outstanding, and now they are deciding whether to indict McCabe. Well, do you see people indicted? I mean, if it's as devastating a report as we've been told, Greg, will people get indicted?
I think Senator Graham is right. Ugly and devastating, and on that basis alone, there should be criminal indictments. Whether they will test the mettle of both John Durham as well as Bill Barr, the Attorney General. I am absolutely convinced that crimes were committed by the likes of Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, and others, Brennan and Clapper. They should be held accountable if there is any justice in our system of justice.
I think I want the Durham report as much, if not now more, than the Horowitz report. 20 seconds, David Schoen. Indictments coming, referrals coming?
You know I'm the cynic. McCabe is the easy case. McCabe is recorded, audio tape recorded. He's waffled back and forth. His statements were given under oath. If they don't prosecute him, can't imagine they're going to prosecute anyone. And justice will not be served, quite frankly. That shows your double standard if that's what happens. I'm a cynic.
You're a cynic. So you don't think, do you think we're going to live in a country where we have a two-tier justice system and we don't have equal justice of our laws and equal application of our laws? That's what you're saying then?
God forbid.
No, is that what you believe that's what the outcome's going to be?
I believe you get institutional pushback from people in the Justice Department.
Well, then I think that it's over. I honestly believe that this country is not going to survive if that happens, if the powerful and politically connected get away with this. And by the way, the biggest disappointment as of now today is Ray. Ray doesn't seem to want to clean up the premier law enforcement agency in the world. I don't get it. I really don't. He seems hell-bent on holding back information and not bringing it forward. And that makes no sense. All right. Thank you both for being with us. Appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. We'll get to your calls next, and then we'll check in with Jeff Lord, Kayleigh McEnany, and we'll look at, the disaster that is the Democrats' 2020.
Didn't the IRS scandal and the NSA atrocities convince you? You need a watchdog on Washington with insider sources. You need Hannity every day.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. Biden's collapsing. We'll get to that with Kayleigh McEnany and Jeff Lord. What we have all been talking about all day is this issue involving Luck of the Indianapolis Colts retiring at 29. And not only that, the reaction of the fans just booing the hell out of his decision to retire. The guy has had a lot of injuries. You know, the guy's been through a lot. He's, nothing that serious like everybody in the NFL. He's had concussions. And that brings up the whole issue of CTE and how severe what the after effects are for a long career in football. Now, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, the average professional career is like 3.5 years. Every single year, you have all these college kids that want to take your spot. And usually teams can get people nearly as good, maybe as good, sometimes better, and pay them a lot less. Which bothers me, too, because right out of the college, I think these guys ought to be able to charge whatever they want, but they control how much teams can pay and salary caps, et cetera, which tells me, look, it's the NFL. And, Jason, you tell me if I'm wrong. I won't ask Linda because she knows nothing about sports. By the way, how many points do you get for a touchdown? Do you know, Linda?
I'm not playing this game with you today. You want to talk about sports? You talk about it with Jason and Ethan and Blair.
How many points?
Actually, you know who the sports aficionado is in our studio now?
Is who?
It's Katie.
I know. Katie loves sports.
That girl is ridiculous. She knows so much.
I don't care. Whoever wants to weigh in. But the average career of an NFL player is 3.5 years. This guy's had torn cartilage in 2 ribs, a partially torn abdomen, a lacerated kidney, at least one concussion, torn labrum in his throwing shoulder, a calf ankle issue that led to him finally saying that, you know what, I'm getting out. Now, he did this and didn't know that the Colts were going to give him the salary. He thought he was going to give up $5 million. But the Colts, which I thought was a pretty classy thing, they gave him the money anyway. But the fans, listen to the fans booing here. This is pretty harsh. Now, Aaron Rodgers, I like Aaron Rodgers. He's a class act. I know I've actually talked to his dad on this program once before. He and a lot of the other players are apoplectic over the fan reaction, and this is what Rodgers said.
I thought it was pretty disgusting. He's making a really tough decision. And even before that, he makes a decision. I don't know why that doesn't stay in-house to kind of protect him a little bit. Although, when I think about it, I thought it would have been, more of a standing ovation type thing and a thank you than boos. But I said it this morning, I 100% respect him immensely for his decision. I salute him for choosing, quality of life. He's a fantastic player. He had a great career, and he's got a lot to be proud of. And like many of us in this locker room, if not all of us, we all have interests outside of football. Andrew is an extremely bright guy, and I'm sure he'll have a lot of things to transition into.
I just thought that was, and a lot of the other NFL players are saying similar things. I have not heard, has anyone heard Katie or Jason or Ethan or any player that came out and spoke out against him? I've not heard that.
I haven't heard any player. I wouldn't expect you to hear any player to
the only thing that pisses me off and why I'm watching college football is the whole kneeling thing. It's driving me nuts.
Well, it shouldn't drive you nuts. I mean, it's like a very, very small handful of players. And the guy you're referring to, Reed, he was a former teammate of Kaepernick's in San Francisco, and he was probably out of the league because of that. And he signed a contract with Carolina, and they've decided to keep him around.
Yeah, look, this is a personal decision, and it hurts the Colts. They're still paying them. That was their decision. They did not have to make that payment. They could have said, "Okay, you're leaving. You quit. We don't owe you the money contractually. You're on your own." But CTE is real. I mean, the idea that I don't know. I just know the results of the autopsy when I read about Aaron Hernandez. Apparently, it was the worst case of CTE they had ever seen. Did it contribute to his violent nature and eventually his death? I don't know. How would I know? I'm not a doctor. But I saw Jim McMahon formerly the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. I mean, those were the
he is a very bad case.
Yeah, and I've watched Real Sports. I'm not a fan of Brian Gumbel, but the show, they have a lot of good segments on it, and when they do, I like to watch it. And they've done a lot on this, and the league has responded, and they've changed a lot of the rules to make it a little bit more safe. And
they kind of had to because they were covering up the whole concussion thing for years. Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, that's on them. But and then that's fine, and they're trying to make better helmets, and that's fine too. But at the end of the day, if you're going to play football the way it's played, or you're going to get in an octagon and you're going to pick a warrior sport. That's what it is. This is one of these sports. This is a warrior sport. If you're going to pick that sport, and there are enough people like me that want to watch these sports. I mean, there's never an MMA fight that I'm not watching. I watch them all. I buy every pay-per-view. Same with boxing. I do the same thing with boxing, although I prefer MMA. As long as people are willing to pay to watch warriors, that's part of the sport. There is an element of danger here. There absolutely is. Now, we'll talk to Joe Theismann later in the program, and Herschel Walker is going to join us. Go look up the video of Joe Theismann having his leg broken by Lawrence Taylor of the New York Giants. It was a career-ending break, and it is hard to watch. You can watch the Octagon. What's his name? Antonio Silva. And when
it's actually Anderson Silva.
I'm sorry,
You're welcome.
Anderson Silva in the Octagon kicks a guy once, and literally the bone breaks in half on his leg, as the guy did a really effective block. And it's painful to watch. But life's this. I don't want to ruin the sport in the process.
Well, Sean, if you go into football, you know what you're getting into. You know what you're getting into.
You're going into the Octagon. You know you're going to be bloodied up some days. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know you're going to get hit. And
you
you're
play hockey. You're going to get your bell rung. It's just a fact. You're not going to get off scot-free. I loved playing those sports. Loved it. And I train hard now. I've had my bell rung recently. When we do our sparring. It was a cheap shot, too, by the way. Kidding.
You actually take hits to the head? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. We have gear on, but I'm telling you, you hit so hard, I'm telling you, you can have your bell rung with headgear on, yes.
So how many concussions do you think you've had?
Not enough to count for CTE. I don't think I got a concussion from it. I think maybe when I was younger playing sports, hockey, I remember I probably did have a mild concussion.
I remember your nasty broken finger. That was disgusting.
Oh, that was from MMA too. That was me. At least it was me hitting in that case. It wasn't. At least I threw the punch. I wasn't on the receiving end of that punch. And it was pretty effective, and there was a lot of blood associated with that punch. But we love these sports. We admire these athletes because we instinctively know it's courageous. I will get back into this with Joe Theismann and Herschel Walker later in the program. All right, let's get to our busy telephones here. Let's say hi to Clinton in Michigan. Clinton, hi, how are you? Welcome to the program. Glad you called, sir.
How you doing, John?
I'm good, Clinton. How are you? Somebody's telling me in my ear that I know you.
Yeah, I am the hot dog guy in Lansing.
Okay, now wait a minute. Tell the story.
Okay, now you remember in 2012 we had a right to work pass, and I was under the tent there, and they destroyed all my hot dog equipment. And you called me up and talked to me and asked did I listen to your show, and I said yes every day. And you donated $5,000 to me. And And I was so happy, and that led to me that people started sending money to me all over the world because I was under the tent. And I was just a working man trying to make a living. I was hired to give away hot dogs that day.
So, Clinton, I remember, but vaguely. I mean, I wish my memory was better. I remember this. Give me the details. I remember giving you the donation. I felt terrible for you because you want to work. They were going to take your livelihood away, which is your hot dog stand, right?
Exactly.
And why? What was the rationale?
I have no idea, Sean, because I was there to give away hot dogs for a group that hired me to give away hot dogs that day. And the Right to Work, UAW, came, and when they found out that the bill had passed, they just started destroying everything. They cut the tent down. I was under the tent, and so they poured my chili out. They destroyed all my equipment.
All right, now let's fast forward. So I give you $5,000, and then other people sent you money. How much did people send you?
I was getting money from all over. I was getting cards, people were sending me $20 here, $30 here, $50 here, all over the world. I was on Greta Francuska. She called me, and I was on her show. And it just took off when you called me, Sean. I was so grateful for you, and I wanted to tell you that.
Well, let me ask you this. What are you doing now? Did you get your own place, your own hot dog stand? What did you do? What are you doing now?
I got a brand new hot dog stand.
Brand new?
Brand new. I had it built. I had it custom built. Brand new.
And how's business? Tell me how business is.
Business is really good. Really good.
How many hot dogs do you sell a day on average?
On the average, I sell 100 hot dogs, and give out hot dogs. Probably about 100 hot dogs a day.
And so you're selling hot dogs, and making a decent living at it, I hope.
I am. I've been doing it for 25 years.
Now, where is your spot so people, our friends in Michigan, can go get hot dogs from you?
I am right across from the Capitol, right in front of City Hall on Michigan and Capitol. I'm right across from the Capitol.
So you're right in the heart of the action. So you're doing really well. Good for you. And so you took the money I gave you, you bought the hot dog stand, and you're kicking ass. That's what you're telling me. That's your update.
That's exactly what I'm saying, John.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Now, how do you have to take the stand home every day, or do you have to hitch it to the back of your car? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, I hitch it to the back of my truck, and I take it home, and I put it in my driveway, and
then you go back. And how many days a week are you working, Clinton?
I'm working 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 11 to 2 o'clock p.m. And weekends I do other things too. I am a caterer too, so I do catering too. On the
All right, let me ask you a very personal question. You don't have to give me the exact number. Around how much are you making a year?
Well, Sean, I'll give you a roundabout figure, maybe 80 to 85,000, maybe a year.
That's awesome. Let me ask you this question: how much did the hot dog stand itself cost?
Well, the hot dog itself that I've got now that I had made, $9,000.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do this time, okay? Because I want you to almost double your income. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to send you $9,000, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to find another location that obviously doesn't compete with yours. I want you to find somebody, you pay them by the hour, or maybe give them a small percentage of what you sell, and I want you every day. Now you're going to have to move 2 hot dog carts. You drop off one for the person that's working for you, whoever, maybe it's a family member, friend, or whatever that needs a job. And then you get in your location. Now you'll have 2 businesses, and let's see how we do in a year. Call me back and tell me how it worked out.
Great, Sean. Thank you, man.
How's that? Pretty cool? Is that a good deal?
That is real cool.
Yes, I should have asked for a percentage. I just negotiated. I can make a fortune investing in you. You're kicking serious ass in the free market. I love it. It's awesome. That is a great story. I'm so proud of you. Good for you. You're working hard.
Thank
the
you,
American
sir.
dream. Government tried to shut you down, and we're able to bypass their idiocy. All right, so we're gonna take care of that. All right. God bless you, Clinton.
Okay, John.
All right, stay on the line. Linda's gonna take care of you.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
Accelerate, the fastest growing agricultural additive on the market. Visit RoyalOilUS.com to learn more.
Baseball today. It's the American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television. One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
agree with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and
This is Times Square, 42nd Street.
Transfer is available. 1-7-8-6.
Paris.